breaking down the deals, data, and disruption shaping global markets. You're listening to The Daily Ledger with Dennis Sert.
Hey folks, good morning. Happy Monday. Today is December 15th, a Monday. You're listening to The Daily Ledger Show, and I am your host, Dennis Sert. Great to be here with you here today. Just want to start out. It was kind of wild, kind of in a bad way over the weekend, and my condolences go out to the families of the victims. I don't really want to get into it on this show, so I'll leave it at that. Nevertheless, we have some stories to get into here today. Should be short and sweet. Let's go ahead and start out with some of the macro trends. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 0.51%. NASDAQ down 1.69%. S&P 500 is down 1.07%. Bitcoin is at 89,163. We got some stuff to get into. We have what current CEOs are deciding to do, according to the Wall Street Journal, regarding spend on AI in 2026. OpenAI had some policy changes. We're going to talk about that. And then a robot company that everybody's heard of is filing for bankruptcy. So we're going to get into that as well. But remember to first download Byte AI, a financial co-pilot for stock portfolios. And basically it aggregates news sentiment as well as technical analysis like the RSI curve, Bollinger Bands, and MACD/signal curve. And it comes up with a succinct, basically non-financial advice equivalent of buy, sell, or hold. So you can see here it says Meta's underbought and explains why based off of the technical analysis as well as the new sentiment. So make sure to download Byte AI on the iOS App Store. You can just search it up on your phone. Or if you have an Android or something, you can go on to app.byteai.me and then access it via your computer like I'm on right now. Okay, well, without further ado, let's jump into our first story today, which is from the Wall Street Journal. CEOs to keep spending on AI despite spotty returns. Tenio's annual survey finds 68% of chief executives plan to increase AI spending in 2026. Yeah, so I thought this article was interesting because over the past, let's say, a couple months, there's been a lot of hubbub around, oh, is AI a bubble? Circular deals like with CoreWeave, OpenAI, Microsoft, etc. I think and we were covering that sort of in real time. I think a lot of that rhetoric has kind of quieted down, by the way. But I think I've sort of formed my stance on this, which is that I think AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And I've said previously, and I still stand by that, which is that users, I think, are going to, like direct-to-consumer users who are prompting AI are going to slowly wean off. And I think companies that use ChatGPT sort of via the API or the developer interface for their business, I think those companies are going to kind of win in the attention economy. Because again, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of cognitive load to just go in and think of something to prompt ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, and then just like prompt and then get an answer back, do it again, right? I still think that's going to die down, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the company's going to die. It just means that that cognitive load has been offloaded onto a third party. Um, yeah, so there's that. So it says here 68% of CEOs plan to spend even more on AI in 2026, according to an annual survey of more than 350 public company CEOs from advisory firm Teneo. Less than half of current AI projects had generated more in returns than they had cost, respondents said. Yeah, so it's not very cost effective at the moment, but that's kind of how it is with emerging technology. And I say emerging technology, and it's been 3 years. Yeah, I've also kind of criticized big companies for kind of being very slow, walking on eggshells. Like, oh, we have to wait 3 years before we kind of get our hands dirty with AI. Well, it's like, okay, um, it's just kind of dumb. Like, why not just pick it up? Like, I was on ChatGPT the day it came out in like October 2022, November. I mean, yeah. You know what was holding me back? I think it was the fact that, just when you're in college and you're kind of locked in for that 4 years to get a degree, and it's like when a really good opportunity like the emergence of AI comes out, I mean, that's like once in a generation. I feel like, I mean, I think it even overshadows kind of the .com boom. Um, you really need to be able to spot that. And then and yeah, I did, in the sense that I started using it, right? But you really gotta think big. And of course, that's on me. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm blaming myself. But like you kinda have to think big. You can't be like, oh, I can use this to, I don't know, do whatever it is you want to do with it. But you want to think about like your, potential customers with that, like the minute it comes out, right? And I'm saying, like, I give myself criticism on that. And then you look at these other companies that are like Google. It took like 3 years for them to, finally whip themselves up into shape to be a real competitor against OpenAI. Well, why did it take that long? Yeah. I mean, anyways, so that's enough about like slow companies, like the slow pace of tech um adoption with big companies. Just really gets me going. But anyways, enough on that. Uh, we have this other story. OpenAI ends vesting cliff for new employees in compensation policy change. Maker of ChatGPT and its competitor XAI have relaxed restrictions meant to keep new hires from leaving in the midst of a fierce talent war. Yeah, so basically OpenAI. So there's this system called in startup land regarding equity. It's called the 4 year vesting cycle with 1 year cliff, which means that you have to stay 4 years for your promised equity to vest or kind of go into your pocket um, as kind of an employee. And but in the you don't get anything in your first year. You have to kind of, that's why they call it the cliff. You have to wait that 1 year cliff, and then you get 25% of what was promised. And then the following year, it kind of linearly increases after that. So then you get another 25% by the end of your second year. Then you get 75% by the end of your third year. And then finally, at the end of your fourth year, you get 100% of your promised equity, right? Um, but anyway, seems like OpenAI has followed XAI, who did this kind of back in July. Um, seems like amid this sort of talent war between these AI companies, because everyone's just like poaching each other. Um, there's almost nothing left at Apple. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's only funny because it's kind of ironic that it's like, okay, like what is going on? Like, I'm not really like rooting for the downfall of any of these companies, but it's like, so that's not why I left. But I was just like, okay, like what about decorum here? Like, if you're in a job, just kind of like relax, just kind of, it's going to be okay. Like, you don't have to be, oh, I have to go to some other company from like Apple to Meta or OpenAI to XAI. It's like, let's just all chill out. Right. So that's why it was funny. Yeah. So anyway, so the story here is that OpenAI has decreased the cliff from 1 year or 12 months to 6 months. And that's in a hope to sort of keep OpenAI employees, because it sort of offers an incentive. If you go to XAI, then you get kind of a leading AI companies' shares vested sort of in you, kind of in a shorter time frame, but I guess not anymore. So there's that. Nice. All right, this is our last story for today. How iRobot lost its way home. It's filing for bankruptcy. Unfortunate. You know what kind of pisses me off a little bit about this whole thing? And this isn't a political dig. This is financial. The EU. I mean, it just seems like they're on a roll these days, right? I mean, they just sued X, formerly Twitter, 120 million euros for allegedly violating the Digital Services Act. It has to do with like the blue check mark and verification, right? Like who cares, right? It's like, oh wow, this user has a blue check mark, this one doesn't. Wow, big deal. 120 million euros though, if you're the EU. The EU also fined Apple, and I'm gonna land this plane. Just let me knock off a couple of these. The EU fined Apple 500 million euros for allegedly violating the Digital Markets Act in April regarding basically previously, prior to April of 2025, iOS developers were only able to get purchases direct to consumer via the Apple Store, or the App Store rather. But ever since then, they've kind of opened it up so that you can use like Stripe and these other like third-party vendors. Anyways, so 500 million euros in April for Apple from the EU. They launched an antitrust investigation into Meta for blocking other AIs from accessing WhatsApp. It's like, come on, it's WhatsApp, right? They're owned by Meta. I mean, they should be able to regulate which companies are allowed to access and talk to their users in WhatsApp, right, via the developer interface or the API. But no, the EU says no. So they're currently looking into it. And so the reason why I said all of that is because this bankruptcy with iRobot, the maker of Roomba, this wasn't supposed to happen. In fact, Amazon had actually made a bid of $1.7 billion to buy and acquire iRobot in 2022. But you know what happened? The EU launched a major regulatory investigation into Amazon regarding this acquisition. And Amazon, and rightly so, I think, given kind of the extra unnecessary scrutiny by the EU, they backed out of that $1.7 billion acquisition. Of course, that was the beginning of the end for iRobot. They essentially like shed a bunch of, they started hemorrhaging employees, right? iRobot, their share nosedived, right? So that's what it says. 31% of its workforce left, right? And Amazon paid the $94 million termination fee because of the breakup there. But yeah, I mean, that is just ridiculous. Like, I mean, you can kind of say the EU killed iRobot. I mean, rest in peace. So anyways, what are you going to do? Alrighty. I think we're going to leave it there for today. We had kind of a heated session today, but yeah, all good. That's what we're here for. Um, Make sure to download Byte AI on the App Store. And if you access via the web app, make sure to use the code podcast20 for a 20% discount off your first month. This is Dennis Sert, and I'm signing off of the Daily Ledger Show, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.